Okay, let's talk about what happens when a community, a group of people totally united against a common enemy, suddenly just turns on itself. Today, we're going to look at the anatomy of a fracture like that, a story of how a movement's fight for freedom can, tragically, become its own kind of prison. This quote right here, this is the whole story in a nutshell. It's the central, tragic irony of this whole thing. You've got a community built specifically to get away from a toxic environment, and then it starts using the exact same tactics on its own people. I mean, how does that even happen? So, before we dive into the really messy stuff, we've got to rewind a bit. Because to really get how things fell apart, you have to understand what held this group together so tightly in the first place. And it all started with a shared history and one single, very powerful enemy. Now, it's so important to remember these people were not always on opposite sides. Far from it. They were collaborators, key figures in this online activist movement, all with one shared goal: holding Scientology accountable. They were on the same team. So what on earth could have gone so wrong? So what was the breaking point? Well, as you're about to see, it wasn't just one little thing. It's kind of like an earthquake. The pressure had been building under the surface for a while, and then two major fault lines just gave way, shattering the whole alliance. And here's our first catalyst. It's so ironic, isn't it? A charitable foundation, something created with the noble goal of helping people, becomes the very thing that starts tearing the community apart. Suddenly, this organization that was supposed to do good is at the center of this huge storm of questions about leadership, money, and ethics. And right here is where we see that first massive fracture. A key board member, Liz Gale, she resigns. But the why? Well, the why becomes a battle between two stories that just cannot both be true. On one side, you have this serious account of a crisis of ethics and poor leadership, and on the other, it's all chalked up to pettiness, jealousy, a rage quit over a birthday party. There's just no middle ground there at all. Now, the second catalyst was somehow even more explosive, mainly because it was so deeply personal. A private crisis just erupts into public view, a desperate call for help, followed by this sudden, kind of baffling reconciliation. This left former allies feeling not just confused, but totally betrayed and targeted. And it sparked these accusations of retaliation that would just pour gasoline on the fire for months to come. With the battle lines now clearly drawn, things got ugly. The conflict escalated fast. It moved way beyond disagreements and into all-out online warfare. A whole new arsenal of weapons was deployed, and as we're going to see, the tactics were just brutal. First up, turning the platform's own rules into a weapon. The Digital Millennium Copyright Act, the DMCA, it's supposed to protect creators. But in this fight, it became a tool to try and deplatform and silence opponents. It's a classic case of weaponizing the rulebook. And this slide just perfectly captures the two sides of this copyright war. One side is saying, look, this is about taking back control of our own content, stuff we're embarrassed by. It's our intellectual property. But the other side argues, no way. This is censorship, plain and simple. You're trying to scrub the public record and silence criticism by hiding behind copyright law. And just like that, YouTube's own system became the battleground. But the fight didn't stop with platform rules. The next tactic took things to a much, much darker place. It left the world of ideas and debate and became deeply, viciously personal. I mean, the approach that followed can only be described as scorched earth. Nothing was off limits. Mental health, family members, private finances, any piece of information that could be twisted into a weapon was dragged out into the open to discredit and destroy the other person. And when online attacks weren't enough, the conflict literally leaped off the screen and into the real world. The final escalation? Taking the fight to the legal system and turning online insults into actual courtroom filings. This defamation lawsuit is a perfect example of that jump. A single comment made on a live stream, allegedly as a way to get back at someone, spirals into a real-world court battle, and the whole legal question boils down to intent. Was it a simple, careless mistake, or was it a malicious act designed to cause serious harm? So after all of this, the accusations, the copyright strikes, the personal attacks, the lawsuits, where does that leave everyone? The main takeaway is that there's no longer one shared reality. Instead, you've got two completely separate, fortified camps, and each one has its own unshakable version of the truth. This table just lays it all out so perfectly. It's totally polarized. Where one side sees obsessive harassment, the other sees a necessary fight for accountability. Where one side sees a personal vendetta by jealous failures, the other sees a mission to expose hypocrisy. They're looking at the exact same events and coming to wildly different conclusions. And this brings us full circle, right back to where we started this whole conversation. The ultimate irony here is that in their fight against each other, the tactics they started using, public shaming, character assassination, demanding total loyalty, began to look disturbingly similar to the very system they had all fought so hard to escape. And so, we're left with this one last unsettling question. In a war like this, fought between former allies with so much intensity, is there really a winner at all? Or does the original mission, the very reason they all came together in the first place, just become another casualty of the conflict?